Well, alright guys, we're getting ready to start tackling the tile work. For the tub surrounds, we're going to be using a 3x6 subway tile with a 2x6 bullnose running around the perimeter. And then on the flooring, we're using a 13x13 Luna Gray that I'm going to install in a running bond like this. Alright, it's confession time. I've worn many hats throughout this renovation project, but setting tile has never been one I've put on. So naturally I needed some tools. I'm going to run through these real quick on what I'm going to use each of these for, because they all do have a purpose, especially for this project. This is a 1/4 by 3/8 by 1/4 notch trowel, so it's got a 3/8 deep notch right here. I'm going to be using this one to spread the thin set to set the tiles on the floor. This is a 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. I'm going to be using it to set the subway tiles. But I am installing a fairly short backsplash across the kitchen, and this trowel is too wide to spread the thin set out. So I purchased a 1/4, 1/4, 1/4 margin trowel to do that work right there. And I can also use this to get in tighter places if I need to. And then of course a grout float to spread the grout, get it installed. And then I purchased a margin grout float for doing the backsplash or any other tight areas I might need to get into. And then a grout sponge. That's pretty much the lineup of what I'm going to be using here to get this work completed. Alright, well I'm in the master bathroom. We're going to start on this surround right here. And when I spoke with the drywall guy originally, I told him to leave all these joints alone. But they came in and spread drywall mud in here and put in paper tape. We had a little language barrier, I believe, that we couldn't quite get across. He didn't speak very good English and I don't speak Spanish. So I had him pull the tape out, but he left all the mud. So I've been in here for hours cleaning all of this back up so I could put on my fiber tape, which is a mesh tape for this purpose, so I can bed it in with a layer of thin set, which is where I'm at right now. So I need to mix up some thin set, fill the corners up, and this seam right here, let it set, do that in both bathrooms, and then I can come back and start setting the tile. Okay, well I've got all the seams filled with mortar. Once this cures out, I'll be on my way. Alright, get ready for some wind. I've got all my layout lines and everything lined out here. I'm going to go ahead and explain what I'm doing here. Some of this may be as clear as mud, but it'll become clear as we move along with the tiling project. You can notice here I have a ledger board here. I wanted to just start stacking tiles directly off the tub. However, these steel tubs, I guess when they stack them on top of each other, they get bent so that it's bowed down in the middle. So rather than start trying to stack off and then shim things and cut tiles to fit to get the top perfectly level, I am going to use this ledger board which I've installed. What I needed to do is determine how high to mount that board. So this first line way up here that shot level across here, I just simply randomly picked a spot there and started measuring down to the tub to find my lowest point, which happens to be right in this arena. So that's where I wanted to set a full tile, or a couple in this case. So at that point I laid a couple tiles onto the base of the tub and I marked the lines on the top and I raised it just a tiny bit. And then I shot a level line across. The reason I raised it is because when I put these pieces in, I don't want to have to cut a little bit off of these two. I'm going to leave myself a gap to put some caulk in. So as I move around and install these tiles, they're going to get shorter and shorter and shorter all the way around. So now I have a perfectly level line that's a good foundation to start building from. That's why I'm doing it this way. The next thing I needed to determine was how the courses were going to run across on this ledger board, meaning I want them to have equal pieces, cut-off pieces on each end, rather than just starting on one side and ending up with a sliver on the other. I want it perfect from side to side. So to determine that, now these subway tiles have a built-in spacer on all four sides, so when you stack them, it automatically sets your grout joint at a 1/16 of an inch, which is what I'm going to be using. So I started with one in the corner and butted one up to it, and then I leapfrogged them all the way across the back until I could not fit another full one. I marked the edge of that tile and then measured the distance from there to that wall, cut it in half, and made a mark on the wall on both sides the same distance. Then I lined up a full tile there and I leapfrogged over again to make sure I fell right on that mark, and I did. So that is going to ensure that this is the distance for this piece that I need to cut. Now these two lines here are for my running bond. To determine this outside line, I stuck a full piece of tile up to the mark I had just made, and I scribed it out here on the wall, and then I shot a level line all the way up to where the top is going to finish. And then this line here is half the distance of a tile in the center. So when I'm installing these, I'm going to use these two marks to line these tiles up to start courses, and then they'll run all the way across, and they'll ensure that they fall in the center without having to do any measuring. I've also put some out there and some in here just for me. I really only need one, and then everything should fall in place as I'm moving across, but I put some extras in there just so I can check the courses as I go and make sure everything is falling correctly. So all these lines, even though it is a staggered pattern, they will all be running straight up the wall. Well, the next thing I needed to determine, or wanted to, was where I was going to stop my courses up there, including a bull nose. So I just started stacking off this ledger board all the way up the wall, leapfrogging again, and said, okay, that's where I'm going to stop it, and made a mark, and then made one 2 inches above that for where the bull nose is going to sit. And that line was shot all the way around the perimeter, both of them for that matter. Then we're actually going to run the bull nose down, and it's going to sit on top of the molding. So I needed to determine where this was going to be as well. So a 6 foot level on the front of the tub, shot that line up to meet the one on the top, and then came out 2 inches for the bull nose and ran it all the way down. So this is where the bull nose is going to sit, and this is where the tile will stop. Well, I'm getting ready to explain the next thing I did, but this is the reason why, so I figured I'd throw this in right now so it made a little bit more sense. I do not like it when bull nosing lines up with the bond pattern with these grout joints. I do not like that, because if you fall like that, every other one is going to line up there, and I don't think it looks good. I like all of them staggered out. So if I ended up with a full tile on the top, I would have to cut this off at the midpoint and have a small square in here to correct the bond pattern that I'm shooting for, and I would also have to cut this one off in the middle and start running again. I don't like that. So what I'm doing is I want to ensure that I stop with a small tile there and a long tile here. And at this point, this one should just line up and be perfect to right here. This one, however, I will need to cut at this tile. It'll still be very long, and then that will correct the bond to where I will get them all laid out like this, to where none of these joints are like that. So with that being said, I need to know whether I'm going to start with a long one or a short one right here, so when I get up to the top, I finish off with the short one. So to find that, I simply just started up there and walked the tiles down, staggered them out, half tiles, long, short, long, short, long, short, and I fell right here at short, which is the first tile I'm going to set on this ledger. And this one is going to be a full long tile. So knowing that, I'll start with a short one here and then start running full tiles down this wall, and when I get to the top, it's going to lay out just like I want. So because I wanted that to end up like that up there, and I know that I want to start with a short one right here, but these walls are going on after the back wall. So I need to know back here if I'm going to start with a short piece or a long piece. And the reason for that is, if I have a long piece here, I want a short piece here, so it looks like that tile is just continuing around the corner. And then when it comes back the other way, there'll be a long piece here and a short piece here. It'll stagger the corners out real nice and make them look fluid and seamless running around. So to determine what was going to happen back here, I started at the front corner, knowing I was going to put a short one here to make the top line out right. Then I started laying in full tiles and daisy chaining back to figure out what needed to be back here. Well, it just so happened I fell right here on this line, this reference line. So I know this is going to be a short tile, which is the S on the wall. So I know this one is going to be a long tile. So when I start laying it on this particular ledger, I'm going to start with the long tile, a full tile and a long piece. And then when I get to the sidewall, I'll start with a short piece and then start running long. And this other side is going to fall out exactly like the other one. There'll be a long piece where the ledger board is, but I'm going to start with a short piece here. And then I will end up with a short piece here and a long piece here. Well, this might better illustrate exactly what I was talking about. This is my reference line where I will set the first tile on this back wall. And when I say long piece, that's what I mean. It is not a full tile, it's just a longer piece of tile and then a shorter piece over here. So you can see as I work into that corner, it is going to make a transition around and look like a full tile. Rather than if I haphazardly put these in here, I would have two short pieces next to each other, and then the two that would go up top would be two long pieces, and it would look like a huge tile coming around. So by laying it out and installing them in this way, I'll have a long one and a short one, and then starting on that wall, I'll have a long one and then a short one that runs out to this mark right here. So it will look like a fluid continuation around the corner. I hope that makes things a little more clear. Well, this is where my order of events are going to run off the rails a little bit. The reason being, we had some soap dishes on order, corner dishes, and they're not here. They're not going to be here till Monday, and I'm on Friday. And I want to keep moving and getting this stuff installed. So here's what I'm going to do. Because I don't know exactly where it's going to sit and how I may need to cut around it with the tiles, I'm going to go ahead and lay some courses up here and also bring them around on this wall as well. All three walls. The reason for it is once I reclaim my ledger boards here, I can start working on the other shower in the other room. Not the way I would want to do it. I would rather do the back wall all in one shot, do both side walls, install the bull nose or install it as I'm going, and be done with it, and then move to the next one. So I'm going to be leapfrogging back and forth, but it is what it is.